Earth's retaliation was so brutal. The galaxy went silent. Captain Han Ji-woo stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the stars blur past the viewport. His ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, searching for habitable worlds beyond Earth's solar system. The year was 2347, and humanity had finally mastered faster-than-light travel. It felt like a dream come true. "Captain, I'm detecting something ahead," said Lieutenant Kim Sora from the navigation console. Her voice carried a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Multiple ships. Not human design. Ji-woo's heart raced. This was it. First contact. The moment humanity had been waiting for since they first looked up at the stars. He turned to Dr. Kang Minji, the chief scientist aboard the ship. She was already pulling up readings on her tablet, her eyes wide with wonder. "They're definitely artificial," Minji said, unable to hide her smile. 5 vessels, each about twice our size. They're holding position near the 4th planet in this system. She looked up at Ji-woo. "This is incredible. We're actually meeting aliens." Ji-woo nodded slowly. "Prepare a greeting transmission. All languages, all frequencies. Let them know we come in peace." He pressed the ship-wide intercom. "All crew, this is the captain. We are about to make first contact with an alien species. Remain calm and follow protocols." The horizon's edge moved closer to the alien fleet. The ships were strange and beautiful, with curved hulls that seemed almost organic. They glowed with a soft purple light, and strange symbols decorated their surfaces. Minji began transmitting basic mathematical sequences, the universal language that scientists had always believed would work for first contact. For 10 minutes, there was silence. Then the alien ships responded. Lights flickered across their hulls in patterns that almost seemed like communication. The computer worked to translate, finding patterns in the signals. Slowly, a message began to form on the screens. "They're welcoming us," Minji said, her voice shaking with emotion. "They call themselves the Valthic. They've been watching our solar system for years. They want to exchange cultural information." Tears formed in her eyes. "We're not alone in the universe." Ji-woo felt relief wash over him. His orders from Earth had been clear. Make peaceful contact if possible. Gather information and return safely. Everything was going according to plan. He ordered his communications officer to prepare Earth's cultural database for transmission. Music, art, literature, science. Everything that made humanity special. The data transfer began. For 2 hours, both ships exchanged information. The Valthic seemed fascinated by human culture. They asked questions about Earth's oceans, about human emotions, about the way people lived and died. Minji answered everything enthusiastically, treating it like the greatest moment of her life. Then, everything changed. Without warning, the Valthic ships opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy lanced through space, striking the 3 escort vessels that had accompanied the horizon's edge. The ships exploded in silent blooms of flame and debris. Ji-woo watched in horror as hundreds of his people died in seconds. "Shields up! Return fire!" He shouted, but his voice felt distant, unreal. This couldn't be happening. They had been talking. They had been sharing culture. Why? The horizon's edge shuddered as energy weapons hammered against its shields. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Minji was thrown against her console, blood running down her forehead. The navigation officer struggled to plot an escape course while the ship bucked and twisted under the assault. "Shields at 40%, someone shouted. "We can't take much more of this." Ji-woo made the hardest decision of his life. Emergency jump. "Get us out of here, now." The ship's quantum drive engaged, tearing a hole in space. The horizon's edge vanished from the battlefield, leaving behind the wreckage of the escort ships and the bodies of 300 crew members. As they fled through the quantum tunnel, Jiwoo watched the sensor logs. The Valthic weren't pursuing. They were celebrating, broadcasting the attack across their communication networks like it was entertainment. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. 2 weeks of treating the wounded, repairing damaged systems, and trying to understand what had happened. Minji spent hours reviewing the attack footage, searching for any clue they had missed. There was nothing. The Valthic had simply decided to hunt them for sport. When they arrived at Earth, Admiral Park Do-yoon was waiting. He listened to Jiwoo's report in silence, his weathered face showing no emotion. But when the report finished, his eyes were hard as steel. "It's not just you," Do-yoon said quietly. 2 days after your encounter, the Valthic attacked Proxima Centauri, our first colony. 40,000 people. He pulled up a video feed. This was the last transmission we received. Jiwoo watched the screen. The colony was burning. Ships in orbit rained fire down on the settlements below. People ran through the streets, screaming, trying to find shelter that didn't exist. A little girl appeared on the screen, crying for her mother. Then the transmission cut to static. They didn't even try to communicate, Do-yoon continued. They just killed everyone. Every man, woman, and child. Then they broadcast it across their networks as entertainment. They're laughing at us. Minji was crying openly now. We have to respond. We have to do something. We will, Do-yoon said. He turned to face a wall screen showing Earth from orbit. We've also lost contact with Vaughn Station. 3,000 miners. Just gone. No warning, no survivors. The Valthic are hunting us like animals. Ambassador Choi Yuna entered the room. She was Earth's lead diplomat, the person who had spent her entire career preparing for peaceful first contact. Now she looked hollow, broken. The Galactic Council has responded to our distress calls, she said. They told us that human space is considered Valthic hunting grounds. They will not intervene. Hunting grounds, Jiwoo repeated. The words felt like poison. Humanity had reached for the stars with open hands, and the galaxy had slapped them away. Worse, the galaxy was fine with humans being exterminated for sport. Do-yoon walked to the window, overlooking the military command center below. Hundreds of officers were working frantically, coordinating defensive positions, evacuating outer colonies, preparing for more attacks. We have a choice to make, he said. We can hide. Pull back to Earth, hope they leave us alone. Pray for mercy from creatures that see us as prey. He turned back to face them. Or we can show them what humans do when backed into a corner. We can show them that we're not prey. We're predators who chose to be peaceful, and they've just reminded us how to hunt. The room was silent. Outside the window, construction crews were already working on new ships. Factories were retooling for war production. Every resource on Earth was being mobilized for a single purpose. Jiwoo thought about the little girl in the transmission, about the 300 crew members he had lost, about 40,000 colonists who had just wanted to build a new life among the stars. What are your orders, Admiral? Park Do-yoon's expression was cold and certain. We're going to prepare. We're going to learn everything about these Valthic. And then we're going to teach the galaxy a lesson they'll never forget. He looked at each of them in turn. Humanity tried peace. Now let's try war. Earth's retaliation was so brutal, the galaxy went silent. 6 months had passed since the Valthic attacks. Earth had gone completely dark. Every broadcast stopped. Every beacon shut down. Every colony that could evacuate did so, fleeing back toward the safety of the home system. To the rest of the galaxy, it looked like humanity had given up. The Valthic thought they had won. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in facilities that didn't officially exist, Colonel Lee Sujin watched her pilots train in simulation pods. These weren't ordinary pilots. They were the best humanity had ever produced, chosen from millions of volunteers who wanted revenge for lost loved ones. Each one had lost someone to the Valthic. Each one was willing to die for the mission. "How many ships are ready?" Admiral Park Doyen asked as he entered the command center. The underground facility stretched for kilometers in every direction, hidden from any orbital scans. Thousands of workers moved between assembly lines, building weapons the galaxy had never seen before. 500 stealth ships are operational, Sujin replied. Another 300 will be ready within the month. The Valthic have no idea we're building them. Their sensors can't detect our new hull plating. Diane nodded with satisfaction. The stealth technology had been humanity's greatest breakthrough. While the Valthic relied on biological sensors and energy detection, human scientists had developed materials that absorbed everything. Light, heat, radiation, all of it vanished into the special coating. To anyone watching, the ship simply didn't exist. Across the room, Dr. Yoon Taijin worked at a holographic display showing weapon designs. He looked exhausted. Like everyone else on Earth, he had been working almost non-stop since the attacks began. Unlike the Valthic, humans didn't need long rest cycles. They could push themselves beyond what should be possible when properly motivated. Fear and anger were powerful motivators. "The antimatter warheads are ready," Taijin reported. "We've managed to increase the yield by 40%. One torpedo can now destroy a Valthic battleship with a single hit." He pulled up another design. "And the relativistic missiles are complete. 12 of them, each one aimed at a Valthic colony world." Diane studied the missile specifications. Unmanned projectiles accelerated to near light speed. By the time they reached their targets, nothing could stop them. The kinetic energy alone would crack a planet's crust. It was a terrifying weapon. Are they really necessary? "The Valthic killed 40,000 of our civilians for entertainment," Taijin said quietly. "These missiles are our insurance. If they try to exterminate us, they'll learn we can do the same to them. Mutual destruction keeps everyone honest." Meanwhile, on the other side of the facility, Captain Han Ji-woo stood before the massive hull of the Vengeance Protocol. The dreadnought was 3 times larger than any ship humanity had ever built. Its weapons could level cities. Its shields could withstand sustained bombardment from an entire fleet. And it was completely invisible to Valthic sensors. Beside him, Dr. Kam Minji reviewed the ship's systems. She had changed since the attacks. The enthusiastic scientist who had dreamed of peaceful contact was gone. In her place was someone harder, colder. Someone who understood that the universe was more cruel than she had ever imagined. "The quantum drive is operational," she said. "We can jump directly into Valthic space, hit our targets, and jump out before they can respond." They've never seen technology like this. Ji-woo smiled grimly. The Valthic had made a critical mistake. They had assumed humanity was primitive, weak, easy prey. They had given Earth 6 months to study captured Valthic technology, reverse engineer it, and improve upon it. 6 months for human innovation to turn alien science into something new and deadly. "When do we launch?" Ji-woo asked. "Soon," Doyen replied. "But first, we need to make them think they've won completely." Ambassador Choi Yuna sat in a small shuttle approaching the Valthic homeworld. She had volunteered for this mission, knowing she would probably never return to Earth. The shuttle carried no weapons, no shields. Just a small diplomatic team and a single data core containing humanity's formal surrender. Except it wasn't really a surrender. "We're being scanned," said the pilot. A young officer named Kang Jie. "They're not even being subtle about it. They think we're helpless." Yuna watched the Valthic homeworld grow larger on the view screen. It was beautiful, covered in purple oceans and golden continents. Billions of aliens lived there, going about their lives, probably not even thinking about the humans they had ordered exterminated. That was going to change. The shuttle landed in a massive plaza surrounded by towering structures. Valthic guards escorted them into a great hall where the High Council waited. 12 species made up the Valthic Concordat, and representatives from each one sat in a circle, looking down at the humans like insects. The lead counselor was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors. It spoke through a translator device. You have come to surrender. This is wise. Your species will be allowed to exist as laborers. Your worlds will become Valthic property. You will serve, or you will die. Yuna felt anger burn in her chest, but she kept her face calm. We have come to negotiate terms. Humanity requests that the attacks stop. We will withdraw from space you claim as yours. We only ask to be left in peace. The council chamber erupted in laughter. The sound was disturbing, a mixture of clicks, whistles, and wet sounds that the translators struggled to process. One counselor activated a holographic display showing footage of human colonies burning. They had been watching the attacks like movies, entertainment to share with their families. You have nothing to negotiate with, the lead counselor said. You are prey. This is your purpose. Be grateful we don't exterminate you completely. Yuna stood quietly for a moment. Then she smiled. It was a cold, dangerous smile. You should have taken the offer, she said. She pulled out a small device and activated it. The transmission went out across every frequency, to every corner of the galaxy. Admiral Park Doyan appeared on billions of screens across hundreds of worlds. His message was simple and clear. This is Admiral Park Doyan of the Terran Coalition Defense Forces. 6 months ago, the Valthic Concordat launched unprovoked attacks on human civilians. They killed our people for sport. They laughed at our attempts at peace. They thought we were prey. He paused. They were wrong. At that exact moment, 500 stealth ships received their activation codes. They had been positioned around Valthic military bases, shipyards, and command centers for weeks, waiting, watching, learning patrol patterns and defensive positions. Colonel Li Sujin gave the order. All ships, decloak and engage. Show them what humans do to bullies. Across Valthic space, invisible ships suddenly appeared on sensors. Before the Valthic could react, antimatter torpedoes launched. Space stations exploded. Orbital platforms shattered. Military bases on planetary surfaces vanished in brilliant flashes of light. The Ghost Fleet had struck. On the Valthic homeworld, alarms began screaming. The counselors looked at each other in confusion, then at Yuna. She was still smiling. You wanted to hunt humans, she said. Congratulations. Now you're the prey. Captain Jiwoo sat in the command chair of the Vengeance Protocol as it dropped out of quantum space directly above the Valthic fleet that had destroyed Proxima Centauri. The enemy ships were caught completely off guard. Their sensors hadn't detected the human dreadnought until it was already among them. Target the flagship, Jiwoo ordered. Fire all weapons. The dreadnought's gun spoke. Energy beams, kinetic rounds, and antimatter missiles streaked across space. The Valthic flagship broke apart, its hull peeling away like paper. The other ships tried to scatter, but they were too slow. One by one, they died. This is for Proxima, Jiwoo whispered back on Earth. Dr. Taijin watched the countdown timer. The 12 relativistic missiles had launched hours ago, accelerating to nearly the speed of light. Their targets were the 12 Valthic colony worlds, whose populations had celebrated loudest when human colonies burned. Impact in 60 seconds. A technician reported Taijin thought about the civilians on those worlds. Some of them were probably innocent. Some had probably opposed the attacks on humanity. But humanity couldn't afford mercy anymore. The galaxy needed to learn what happened when you tried to exterminate humans. The first missile struck. The planet's crust shattered. Shockwaves rippled across the surface. Billions died in an instant. 11 more impacts followed over the next 6 hours. Across the galaxy, every species capable of spaceflight watched in horror. The humans, those weak newcomers everyone had dismissed, had just destroyed 12 worlds in retaliation for 3 colonies. The message was clear and terrifying. Don't touch humanity. Ambassador Yuna was still standing in the council chamber when news of the attacks reached the Galactic homeworld. The counselors watched their colonies die on holographic displays, their faces twisted with shock and disbelief. This wasn't possible. Humans were prey. Prey didn't fight back. "You're monsters," the lead counselor whispered. Yuna's smile faded. "No, we're humans. We offered peace. You chose war. Now you're learning what war with humanity actually means." She activated her communicator. "Colonel Bay, I'm ready for extraction." A stealth shuttle uncloaked directly above the council chamber. Human soldiers rappelled down, secured Yuna and her team, and vanished back into the ship B. Earth's retaliation was so brutal. The galaxy went silent 2 weeks into the war. The Galactic Concordat tried to surrender. Admiral Park Doyen read their transmission with cold eyes. The message was desperate, pleading. They promised to pay reparations, to withdraw from all disputed space, to never threaten humanity again. They begged for mercy. Doyen deleted the message without responding. "Sir, shouldn't we at least acknowledge their surrender?" asked his aide, a young officer named Choi Minho. "The war is already won. We've destroyed their military. What more do we need?" Doyen pulled up a video file. It showed Proxima Centauri burning. It showed Galactic Council members laughing as human children died. It showed the broadcasts where they had celebrated humanity's extinction like it was a holiday. We need accountability. We need justice. We need to make sure this never happens to anyone else ever again. He opened a secure channel to the Ghost Fleet. "Colonel Sujin, establish a complete blockade around the Galactic homeworld. Nothing gets in. Nothing gets out. Anyone who tries to flee is to be captured and held for trial." Sujin acknowledged the order. Within hours, stealth ships surrounded the Galactic capital world. Galactic leaders who had ordered the attacks on humanity suddenly found themselves trapped. There would be no escape. No running to hide in distant colonies. They would face what they had done. Dr. Kang Minji stood in the cargo bay of a human transport ship, watching as Galactic civilians filed aboard. These were evacuees from a colony world that had been targeted by a relativistic missile. The weapon was still 3 hours away, unstoppable, inevitable. But humanity had warned them, had given them time to leave, had sent ships to help evacuate those who wanted to live. A Galactic mother carrying 2 small children approached Minji. The alien's translator device crackled. "Why are you helping us? We killed your people. We celebrated it. Why save us now?" Minji looked at the children. They were scared, confused, clinging to their mother. They hadn't chosen this war. They hadn't voted to attack humanity. They were just children who happened to be born Galactic. "Because we're not you," Minji said simply. "We don't kill children. We don't murder civilians for entertainment. We're better than that." The Galactic mother's eyes, all 4 of them, filled with tears. "I'm sorry. We were told you were animals. We were told you had no culture, no souls. We believed the lies." "I know," Minji said. "But now you know the truth. Remember it. Teach your children. Make sure this never happens again." The transport ships jumped away just as the missile struck. The colony world shattered, its crust breaking apart like glass. But its people were safe, scattered across refugee ships heading to neutral worlds. Humanity had killed billions, but saved billions more. The message was clear. We punish the guilty. We spare the innocent, and we always give you a choice. Captain Han Jiwoo's team had a different mission. They were hunting the Galactic Admiral, who had broadcast the destruction of the Horizon's Edge as entertainment. The one who had laughed while 300 humans died. His name was Korvax, and he had fled to a remote outpost at the edge of Baltic space. The Vengeance Protocol dropped out of quantum space directly above the outpost. Korvax's personal fleet was docked there, protected by what remained of his loyal forces. They opened fire immediately, but their weapons were useless. Human shields absorbed the damage easily. "Disable their engines," Jiwoo ordered. "I want prisoners, not corpses." Precision strikes crippled the Galactic ships. Boarding teams teleported across using new human technology the Galactic had never encountered. Within an hour, Korvax was in human custody, along with his senior officers. All of them would stand trial for war crimes. Jiwoo stood before Korvax in the brig. The Galactic Admiral was smaller than he had expected, his forearms shackled, his color-changing skin showing patterns that the translator identified as fear. "You're going to kill me," Korvax said. "Just like I killed your people." "No," Jiwoo replied. "We're going to give you a trial. You're going to face every family member of every person you killed. You're going to hear their names, see their faces, learn who they were. Then you're going to spend the rest of your life on a prison moon, alone, with nothing but recordings of the people who died because you thought murder was entertaining." Korvax's skin flashed bright yellow. "That's worse than death." "I know," Jiwoo said. "That's the point. We could kill you easily. But we're not going to. We're going to make you remember what you did every single day for the rest of your life. And everyone in the galaxy is going to watch your trial and know what happens when you murder humans." The trial was broadcast across every communication network in the galaxy. 200 alien species watched as Korvax and his officers faced a Terran tribunal. The evidence was overwhelming. Video footage, communication logs, casualty reports. 40,000 humans dead. 3,000 more at Vaughn Station. 300 on the Horizon's Edge. The prosecution played the video of Korvax laughing while the colony burned. They played his communications where he called humans amusing prey. They brought forward survivors who testified about watching their families die while Galactic forces celebrated. Korvax had no defense. His own broadcasts condemned him. The tribunal found him guilty of crimes against sapient beings. The sentence was announced: life imprisonment, solitary confinement, with mandatory viewing of every victim's biography for 8 hours every day. He would spend the rest of his long life learning the names of the people he had killed. The galaxy watched in fascination. This was justice, not vengeance. This was accountability, not genocide. Humanity was showing them something most species had forgotten, that there were rules even in war, that some things were unacceptable, that mass murder had consequences. Ambassador Choi Yuna stood before the Galactic Assembly once again. This time, representatives from all 200 species were present. No one wanted to miss this speech. No one wanted to risk insulting humanity by skipping the session. "The Galactic Concordat has been dissolved," Yuna announced. "Its 12-member species have agreed to complete demilitarization. Their weapons will be destroyed. Their warships will be decommissioned. They will be placed under Terran oversight for the next 50 years to ensure compliance." Some representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Krell Empire's ambassador raised a tentacle. "You're talking about colonization, occupation. How is this justice?" Yuna's expression hardened. "This is mercy. We could have exterminated them. We had the weapons. We had the justification. They tried to exterminate us first, but we didn't. Instead, we're giving them a chance to rebuild, to reform, to become better. Under our supervision, yes, but alive." She pulled up a holographic display showing the new treaty terms. "The Galactic species are not slaves. They're not being genocided. They will govern themselves, but their military will never rise again. They will pay reparations to humanity and to every other species they've oppressed over the centuries. And they will live under laws that prevent them from ever hunting other species again. The Markan Collective's representative spoke up. And if other species disagree with these terms? If we feel this is too harsh? Yuna looked directly at them. Then you're welcome to try stopping us. The Ghost Fleet is still operational. Our weapons are still ready. Our soldiers are still trained. We hope we never have to use them again, but we will if we must. The chamber went silent. No one was willing to challenge humanity. Not after watching them dismantle the Concordat in 2 weeks. Not after seeing what happened to species that made humans angry. However, Yuna continued, her tone softening slightly. Humanity is also interested in building relationships. We're offering technology-sharing agreements to species that voted in favor of our rescue when the Valthic attacked. We're opening trade negotiations with anyone interested in peaceful commerce. We're providing humanitarian aid to refugees displaced by the war. She smiled. We can be your worst nightmare, or we can be your greatest ally. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Commander Behiumu supervised the dismantling of Valthic weapons facilities. His team worked alongside Valthic engineers, showing them how to safely decommission antimatter weapons and fusion bombs. Some of the Valthic cooperated willingly. Others resisted passively, working slowly, trying to sabotage the process. One Valthic engineer, a female named Silix, approached Hyunwoo while he inspected a disassembled warhead. You're making a mistake, she said through her translator. Without weapons, we're defenseless. Other species will attack us. Pirates will raid our worlds. You're condemning us to extinction. Hyunwoo considered her words. No, we're giving you a chance to learn a different way. For 3,000 years, your Concordat ruled through fear and violence. You hunted other species for sport. You celebrated genocide. That era is over. So now you'll protect us? Silix asked skeptically. Why would you do that? Because someone has to, Hyunwoo replied. Because if we let you be destroyed, we're no better than you were. Because showing mercy when we could choose vengeance is what makes us different. He looked at her directly. We're not your conquerors. We're your teachers. Learn from us or be left behind. Either way, you'll never hunt anyone again. Colonel Lee Sujin received reports from across former Concordat space. 8 of the 12 species had surrendered completely, offering full cooperation. 3 were attempting. Earth's retaliation was so brutal, the galaxy went silent. 6 months had passed since the war ended. The galaxy looked very different now. The Valthic Concordat was a memory. Its 12 species existed as independent protectorates under Terran oversight. Their weapons were gone. Their military fleets were scrap metal. Their governments had been restructured to prevent them from ever threatening anyone again. Admiral Park Doyan walked through the memorial garden on Earth. Holographic names floated in the air. Thousands of them, each one representing a human who had died in the Valthic attacks. 40,000 from Proxima Centauri, 3,000 from Vaughn Station, 300 from the Horizon's Edge and her escorts. He touched one name gently. Lee Sujin's daughter, Hannah, only 7 years old. Beside him stood Captain Kim Ji-hoon, young and idealistic. Recently promoted to command the defense station orbiting Mars. Sir, do you think we went too far? 12 colony worlds destroyed. Billions dead. Was it worth it? Doyan was quiet for a long time. We didn't start this war. We tried peace. We offered friendship. They chose to hunt us for sport. He looked at the young captain. But you're right to ask the question. Every leader should question their choices. That's what separates us from the Valthic. So, what do we do now? Ji-hoon asked. Now we prove we can build as well as we can destroy, Doyen replied. That's the harder task. Anyone can blow up a planet. Creating something better that takes real strength. Captain Han Ji-woo stood on the bridge of his new flagship, Proxima's Vengeance. The ship was smaller than the Vengeance protocol, but faster, more advanced. It led humanity's first fleet, 300 vessels that patrolled the borders of Terran space. Not to conquer, but to protect. To make sure no one ever attacked humanity again. Sir, we're receiving a distress call, reported his communications officer. It's a Krell merchant vessel under attack by pirates. They're requesting assistance. Ji-woo didn't hesitate. Set course. Maximum speed. Prepare weapons. The first fleet dropped out of quantum space between the pirates and their prey. The pirate ships, seeing human warships, fled immediately without firing a shot. They had heard the stories. They knew what happened to people who fought humans. The Krell captain, a being that looked like a cross between a crab and a jellyfish, transmitted his gratitude. Thank you, Admiral Ji-woo. We've heard stories about human ships, but we weren't sure if you would help non-humans. We protect anyone who needs it, Ji-woo replied. That's what peacekeepers do. The pirates won't bother you again. If they do, call us. We'll come. Word of the rescue spread. Other species started calling human ships for help. Not because they were forced to, but because humans actually responded. Actually protected people. Actually kept their promises. It was a novel concept in a galaxy where most species only cared about their own interests. Colonel Lee Sujin's ghost fleet remained operational, though no one knew exactly where they were or how many ships existed. Intelligence reports from various species occasionally mentioned ghost sightings. A pirate base destroyed overnight with no witnesses. A slave trading operation shut down by invisible forces. A territorial dispute resolved when both sides received anonymous messages suggesting they negotiate or else. Sujin liked it that way. Let the galaxy wonder. Let them imagine human ships watching from the shadows. Fear kept people honest, but so did the knowledge that someone was actually enforcing the rules. The ghost fleet had become galactic police that no one could see, but everyone knew. Dr. Kang Minji had transformed into someone completely different from the enthusiastic scientist who had dreamed of peaceful first contact. She was now Earth's Galactic Relations Director, overseeing diplomatic missions to dozens of species. Her job was to prove that humans could build relationships, not just destroy enemies. She sat across from Ambassador Torix of the Thosian Federation, a species that had been neutral during the war. Torix was nervous. Everyone was nervous around humans now. Director Minji, our people are interested in cultural exchange programs. But we need to be honest. We're afraid of you. Minji smiled sadly. I understand. We're afraid of you too, in a way. Afraid that if we show weakness, someone else will try what the Valthic did. Afraid that we'll have to go to war again. She pulled up a holographic display showing human art, music, literature. But we don't want to live in fear. We want to share what makes us human. We want to learn what makes you Thosian. Fear is a tool, but it's a poor foundation for friendship. What if we disappoint you? Torix asked. What if we make mistakes? Then we'll work through them together, Minji replied. We're not looking for perfect allies. We're looking for honest ones. People who will tell us when we're wrong, who will challenge us to be better, who will grow with us. Can you do that? Torix's frills fluttered, a sign of relief in Thosian body language. Yes, we can try. The cultural exchange began. Human students traveled to Thosian worlds. Thosian artists came to Earth. Ideas flowed both ways. It was slow, careful, built on mutual respect rather than fear. But it was genuine. Dr. Yoon Taijin's laboratories had shifted focus entirely. Instead of weapons, they now developed technology to help rebuild the galaxy. Terraforming systems that could restore damaged worlds. Medical innovations that worked across species barriers. Agricultural systems that could feed billions efficiently. The Marken Collective, one of the species that had been enslaved by the Valthic for centuries, requested human assistance. Their worlds had been stripped of resources, their populations left starving. Taijin personally led the relief mission. "We don't have money to pay you," the Marken leader admitted. "The Valthic took everything. We can't afford your help." Taijin shook his head. "We're not charging you. This is aid, not trade. Your people suffered under the Concordat. We're helping you rebuild because it's the right thing to do." "Why?" the Marken leader asked. "What do you gain from this?" "A future where species help each other instead of hunting each other," Taijin replied. "Where strength is used to protect, not to conquer. Where the strong help the weak instead of exploiting them. That's the galaxy we want to build." Within months, Marken worlds were producing food again. Their people were healthy. Their civilization was rebuilding. And they became humanity's most loyal allies, not through force, but through gratitude and genuine friendship. Ambassador Choi Yuna stood before the Galactic Assembly for what felt like the 100th time. She had been elected to the Security Council unanimously. No one had dared vote against her. But she was using her position to push for real change, not just human dominance. "I'm proposing the Terran Accords," she announced. "Universal rights for all sapient beings. Protection against genocide. Rules for first contact. Consequences for aggression. These aren't human laws. These are civilized laws. Laws that should have existed long before humanity reached the stars." The Krell representative supported her immediately. So did the Thosians. The Marken Collective. Species that had suffered under the old order were eager for something better. Even species that had once been neutral were coming around. They had seen what happened when the rules didn't exist. They had watched the Valthic Concordat fall. They wanted protection from the same fate. The vote passed with 80% support. The Terran Accords became galactic law. Any species that violated them would face a unified response, not just from humanity, but from all member species. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Commander Bei Hingwu supervised the final phase of Valthic reconstruction. The species that had once ruled this sector were now learning to govern themselves without military power. Some adapted well, others struggled. A few still harbored resentment, dreaming of the day they would rise again. Haiyan Wu met with a group of young Valthic, the generation that had grown up during and after the war. They hadn't participated in the attacks on humanity. They had only known defeat and reconstruction. One of them, a male named Tovik, spoke through a translator. "Why did you spare us? You had every reason to exterminate our species. We killed your families. We hunted your people. Why let us live?" Hyunwoo thought about his daughter, about the rage he had felt, about the desire for revenge that had consumed him for months. "Because killing you wouldn't bring my daughter back. Because genocide makes the universe darker, not brighter. Because giving you a chance to be better honors her memory more than revenge ever could. Will you ever forgive us?" Tovik asked. "I don't know," Hyunwoo said honestly. "Maybe not in my lifetime. But your generation didn't commit the crimes. You're not responsible for what your ancestors did. You're only responsible for what you do next. So choose wisely. Build something better. Make sure this never happens again." The young Valthic left thoughtful and determined. They would never regain military power, but they could build a civilization based on different values. Values that honored life instead of hunting it. That was the real victory, not just defeating enemies, but transforming them into something better. Years began to pass. The galaxy adapted to the new order. Trade flourished under human protection. Art and culture flowed between species. Scientific collaboration produced breakthroughs that benefited everyone. The universe was still dangerous, still full of unknowns, but it was also more connected, more cooperative, more hopeful than it had been in millennia. Then, a transmission reached Earth from